Thank you so much for joining us for today's message. We believe God is actively working in your life, and we would love to hear about all that He is doing. If you feel led, please take a second to share your story with us at amen@freedomchurch.sc. If you would like to partner with our ministry financially, you can do so by going to freedomchurch.sc/give and just select the giving option that works best for you. Thanks again for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed today's message.
We're continuing in our journey with some of the less often preached stories of Jesus in this series as we get to know Jesus a little bit over the last few weeks and leading up to Easter Sunday as well. We're in Matthew chapter 15, verse 21 through verses 28 today. Matthew chapter 15, verse 21 to 28. Taking my time with this to allow you to get your notebooks out, get your pens engaged, so that you can write down what God speaks to you today as you hear from Him. And if it's awkward for you because you're not getting a notebook out, that's intentional. Just sit in that moment just for just a moment. Matthew chapter 15, verse 21 through 28. Then Jesus left Galilee and went north to the region of Tyre and Sidon. And a Gentile woman who lived there came to Him pleading, "Have mercy on me, Lord, Son of David, for my daughter is possessed by a demon that torments her severely." But Jesus gave her no reply, not even a word. Then His disciples urged Him to send her away. "Tell her to go away," they said. "She is bothering us with all of her begging." Then Jesus said to the woman, "I was sent only to help God's lost sheep, the people of Israel." But she came and worshiped Him, pleading again, "Lord, help me." And Jesus responded, "It isn't right to take food from the children and throw it to the dogs." And she replied, "That's true, Lord, but even dogs are allowed to eat the scraps that fall beneath their master's table." "Dear woman," Jesus said to her, "your faith is great. Your request is granted." And her daughter was instantly healed. Have you ever seen Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the movie? Now, not the remake, the very, 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 very strange remake. I'm talking about the just strange 1971 original Willy Wonka and Chocolate Factory. You've seen that movie. If you haven't, Mr. Wonka is a kind of recluse, secluded chocolatier who's been locked away in his chocolate factory for many, many years. And no one really knows what's going on inside of there, but they know, well, what's coming out is great. And so the chocolate keeps coming out and it's great. But he gives the kids in his town, and in this town there's this little kid named Charlie Bucket, who is one of the kids, and he's really poor and has to help his family with having a job at a very young age, and they barely have anything to eat. They eat just broth every night, and occasionally they get some bread, and you start to see the poor state that this kid is in. But there's lots of other kids, and he gives the kids in his town and really all over the world the opportunity to come and take a tour of his chocolate factory, but also with hopefully the prize of getting a lifetime supply of chocolate. And of course, you get this by a golden ticket. You guys remember, "I want a golden ticket." You guys remember the movie if you've seen it. And so Charlie's searching for a golden ticket, and there's families that are buying boxes and boxes of chocolates, and whole factory floors are trying to look for chocolates, and they're finding them all over the world. And Charlie thinks that he's got no chance, but he finds some money in the street, and he immediately knows that he should go home and give the money to his family. But he decides to take one little coin, and he goes and buys the chocolate, and of course in there is the golden ticket, and we all celebrate with Charlie as he gets to be one of these kids. And the movie is really a study of character, and just a study of the different character traits that some of these kids struggle with. And slowly throughout the movie, the kids are individually kind of voted off the island throughout the movie, and they're not able to finish the tour, and they go different ways and different places. But it ends up that Charlie and his grandpa Joe remain until the end. And Charlie is built up as like this really sweet kid, just really good kid. You're pulling for him. You want things to go right for him, and it's one of my favorite movies, if you can't tell. And there's a scene in the movie at the end, though, that though it is one of my favorite movies, this scene always drove me crazy. Like it caused such anxiety and tension in me. There was just a huge, thick tension there. It's at the very end of the movie, and it's when Grandpa Joe and Charlie have made it to the end, and they're going in to collect their lifetime supply of chocolate, which we know we want for Charlie and for Grandpa Joe. And then there's just this moment where Mr. Wonka, in a very solemn way, just dismisses them. In fact, I can't paint the picture well enough for you. Just indulge me for a moment and watch this scene from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Mr. Wonka?
I am extraordinarily busy, sir.
I just wanted to ask about the chocolate. The lifetime supply of chocolate for Charlie. When does he get it?
He doesn't.
Why not?
Because he broke the rules.
What rules? We didn't see any rules, did we, Charlie?
Wrong, sir. Wrong. Under Section 37B of the contract signed by him, it states quite clearly that all offers shall become null and void if, and you can read it for yourself in this photostatic copy, I, the undersigned, shall forfeit all rights, privileges, and licenses herein contained, etc., etc. Fax mentis incendium gloria culpum, etc., etc. Memo bis punitor delicatum. It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal. You stole fizzy lifting drinks. You bumped into the ceiling, which now has to be washed and sterilized, so you get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
You're a crook. You're a cheat and a swindler. That's what you are. How can you do a thing like this? Build up a little boy's hopes and then smash all his dreams to pieces. You're an inhuman monster.
I said good day.
Come on, Charlie. Let's get out of here. I'll get even with him if it's the last thing I ever do. Slugworth wants a gobstopper, and he'll get one.
Mr. Wonka?
So shines a good deed in a weary world. Charlie, my boy, you won! You did it! You did it! I knew you would! I just knew you would! Oh, Charlie, forgive me for putting you through this. Please, forgive me. Come in, Mr. Wilkinson. Charlie, meet Mr. Wilkinson.
Pleasure.
Slugworth.
No, that's not Slugworth. He works for me.
For you?
I had to test you, Charlie, and you passed the test. You won!
What, what?
The jackpot, my dear sir, the grand and glorious jackpot.
The chocolate?
The chocolate, yes, the chocolate, but that's just the beginning. We have to get on, we have so much time and so little to do. Strike that, reverse it. This way, please.
As a kid, this scene drove me crazy because there's so much tension there. Because I'm upset. I can't believe that Mr. Wonka is mad at Charlie. It doesn't seem fair at all. Like, I'm sitting there going, this is not fair. And when Charlie reached over and he goes to hand him back the everlasting gobstopper, which was a piece of candy that would last forever, and Slugworth had said he wanted to get, Slugworth was the other chocolatier that had come to the kids and said, hey, if you'll get your hands on the secret of this, I'll pay you all kind of money. And when he goes to hand back the everlasting gobstopper, I'm thinking, no, Charlie, it's your only leverage. It's not fair. Keep it. Don't give it back to him. And we're sitting there and we're pulling for Charlie. But then, as an adult, an even stranger tension was introduced into this whole thing when I realized something that you realize as an adult when you watch things with adult eyes, and that is that actually Mr. Wonka is right. Like they did break the rules. earlier in the movie, they had snuck into a little place where they made the fizzy lifting drink, and they had drank some of the fizzy lifting drink, which would make you lift up off of the ground because it had so much carbonation in it. And so they're just having it fun. And it's a great scene because Grandpa Joe has been in the bed for like 3 decades. Charlie never has any adventure. And so they're just having this great adventure and you're loving it for them. And then there's this big fan at the top of the ceiling and they're about to float into it. And so they have to burp to get down, which is hilarious for any kid. And so they burp to get down to the bottom. And so it's just a great scene. They get to the bottom, they kind of wipe their brow and go, whew, we didn't get caught. And they go on and you think, this is just no big deal. This is just a scene in the movie. But then you remember they did break the rules. But then the roller coaster continues because all of a sudden you realize, okay, Mr. Wonka looks up. He gives him that smile, that gleam in his eye where he had gone from being this whimsical man to being this terribly mean man, then back now to this gleam in his eyes. And you're going, all right, it's so good. It's all good. Mr. Wonka just needed to make sure that Charlie would do the right thing. He just wanted, and the truth is now he's giving him more than just chocolate. He's giving them the whole factory, like he's giving them everything. It's an emotional roller coaster if you've never seen the movie. Like, it's incredible. And so then the whole time you're just pulling for Charlie to take a break. So let me sit here. Enter Matthew chapter 15, verse 21 through 28. And I know if you're new here, just been around for a while, you're leaning over and you're like, is he really going to compare Willy Wonka to Jesus? Because if he is, let's get the car ready. Let's just go. Just hang with me. Hang with me. I think it's going to make sense in just a minute. So I'm reading Matthew chapter 15, verse 21 through 28 a while back, preparing for this series. And I get eerily the same kind of feeling and response I did as I saw this scene in this movie. Let's look at the scripture. I'll explain it to you as we go along. Then Jesus left Galilee and went north to the region of Tyre and Sidon. And a Gentile woman who lived there, just stop there for just a moment, a Gentile woman who lived there. How many of you maybe been around church for a while? You've heard this word Gentile. Maybe you've never been around church very much at all. Maybe you've heard the word, haven't heard this word, but you're like, I don't really know what a Gentile is, but you've just never had the bravery to really kind of raise your hand and go, I don't know what a Gentile is. It's kind of like we sing this new song now, which I love, called Reckless Love. You guys love that song? And it goes, oh, the overwhelming, sing it, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights where I'm found, leaves the 99. How many of you been singing that song so pretty and you're like, I don't have any clue what that means? Like, I know Jay-Z had 99 something, but I didn't know JC had 99. What is that about? Well, what that was about is Jesus told this story where he said that he's the type of shepherd that would leave the 99 to go after the one. And can I just time out for just a moment and say, aren't we glad that Jesus is the type of God that left the 99 to go after the one, that when you were broken, that when you needed somebody to come after you that wasn't so worried about those that were here, but are worried about those that aren't here yet. But with that, maybe you sung that line, you were just like, raising your hand, like taking your Bic lighter out, this kind of deal, and you're like, I have no idea. Maybe you don't know what Gentiles are either, so let me just explain that to you. Gentiles were non-Jewish people. And remember, we live in a world now where we are a part of the blessing and the promise that God brought to the world. We are a part of it as Gentiles. If you're here and you're not Jewish, I know we have some Messianic Jewish people with us. We have maybe some Jews that are still trying to figure out if Jesus is real. But if you're not a Jewish person, you are a Gentile. And now we're included in the promise, but we have to remember that there was a specific promise made to the Jewish people by God through Abraham that he would rise up a nation. And now Jesus was coming to be the fulfillment of that promise. It was the Jewish people who then rejected Jesus, and then Jesus tells us a story that he made it like a wedding feast, where since the invited guests wouldn't come, that he sent out and got everybody from the streets and brought them in. And so this woman is a part of that. The people just like us who came in and were grafted, as the Bible says, into this family. And so there's this Gentile woman who's there, and I think it's important that you understand that she was outside of the promise, and she's pleading, have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David. She calls him Lord, and she calls him the Son of David. For my daughter is possessed by a demon that torments her severely. But Jesus gave her no reply, not even a word. So it's like that very moment when Charlie steps into Mr. Wonka's office and you're expecting this man to say, Charlie, you made it. But instead he's head down, very somber. This woman comes and says, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. And then I read it and Jesus says nothing, not even a word. I'm like, was Jesus in a bad mood? Like, can he even get in a bad mood? I don't know. Like, can he do that? Is he hangry? Because he did have to eat. He was all human. So maybe he just needed to eat. What's going on with Jesus? Then his disciples think that they're kind of picking up on what he's got going on, and his disciples urge him to send her away. Tell her to go away, they said. She's bothering us. With all of her begging. Remember, the disciples last week sent away kids because they thought Jesus wouldn't want to be with kids. So now I get it. Jesus was just dropping out on them, not saying anything. He just wanted to see what they would do. It's kind of like when you just wait to see how your kids are going to handle a situation. You know, you're just watching them. You're like, I think that they know how to climb up on the monkey bars, but we're going to see. We're going to see what happens here. They might fall. It'll be funny. I'll get it on YouTube. And so you just kind of, he's kind of watching to see what's going to happen. So Jesus is just watching, you think. And now Jesus is going to set him straight like he did the disciples last week. And he said, no, wait a minute. No. The kingdom of heaven is for children. So Jesus in verse 24 finally speaks up. Then Jesus said to the woman, I was sent only to help God's lost sheep, the people of Israel. So Jesus is still denying her. He's still not speaking to her really. He's saying, look, I'm not here for you. I didn't come here to give you anything. So he's just sort of pushing her away. But she came and worshiped him, pleading again, Lord, help me. Lord, help me. This week I visited in the home with a man who was dying and actually did die this weekend. And I got to visit with him, and I told him, I said, the most powerful 3 words you can ever say are, Lord, help me. No matter what you've been through, no matter what he kind of worried that he didn't have the eloquence to know how to really call upon God, that he hadn't been in church in his life really for much of his life, and he just didn't know what to say, didn't know how to say. I said, here, say these, Lord, help me. Do you know the most powerful words you can say in your life are, Lord, help me. I don't care what situation you're in. I don't care how long you've been walking with it. And sometimes we just need to say, Lord, help me. And this woman cried out. She said, Lord, help me. So now, Jesus is ready for sure. She cried out to him, and he didn't even speak to her. He cried out. She cried out again. He spoke to her, but told her he wasn't there for her. But now she's really come close to him. And she worshiped him. The word here for worship is proskuneos, which means in the Greek it means to kiss towards. So she literally is sort of taking a position and she's kissing towards him. She's going down. She's going down on her knees and she's worshiping him. She's showing that she has great honor for him, pleading with him. So Jesus is finally going to do it, right? He's going to come back and he's going to heal her. And Jesus responded, "It isn't right to take food from the children and throw it to the dogs." Wow, that's pretty harsh. I love the way religious people try to whitewash what Jesus said sometimes. I read this commentary. Anytime I read a commentary that's really old, and written by an old white guy, I always imagine that they have a British accent, even if they're American. So I just imagine in my mind that they're writing this, and it said, well, these were the type of dogs. They would not have been wild dogs out in the wilderness, but would have been pet dogs. As if, try that this week with your spouse. Call her a dog. And then when she's like, what? You call me a dog? And this, but not the kind that run around in the wild. I mean, like our pet. Like, you're just like our pet. Like, just see if that works. See if that works for you. If your woman's from Berkeley County, I'll be doing your funeral next week. And so that's what we'll do. But Jesus says, don't take food from the children, my children, the people of Israel, and throw it to those who have no right, no privilege, no seat at this table. She replies, That's true, Lord. But even dogs are allowed to eat the scraps that fall beneath their master's table. It's in this moment that you're like, oh yeah, Charlie and Grandpa Joe really did break the rules. It is in this moment that you want to be like Grandpa Joe yelling, "You crook! Like, what are you doing? Like, you can't say that to her." And then you realize, oh, wait a minute. He's God. She says, "That's true, Lord." That's true, Lord. She recognized that whatever he had said was true. Why? Because he was Lord. Do you know that whatever God speaks to you, if he speaks it to you, it's true because he's Lord. Sometimes it doesn't make any sense to us. Sometimes we don't know how to even deal with it. Sometimes we have no idea. Sometimes we're put into our place by it. That we think all of a sudden we are chummy. Jesus is my homeboy, right? No, he's not your homeboy. He's your Lord. And she says, "That's true, Lord." And it's in that moment that you realize, at least I did, I've started to pull for her over Jesus, which is really not a wise thing. You always be able to be on Team Jesus. Like, that's always it's a better team to be on. But I'm sitting there going, God, what are you doing? Like, why are you talking to her? And all of a sudden, in my moment when I'm like, what's she gonna do now? Like, she's gonna come back at him strong now, right? She's gonna convince him something. She puts the everlasting gobstopper on the table. She puts everything out there, everything she is, and it says, here it is, here's where I'm at. And this is a moment that Jesus kind of looks up with a new smile in his eyes, and he says, "Dear woman." The language there in the original, there's lots of words that can kind of go in this word woman. In the original text, they didn't have just one word when they would talk to someone. You would talk to someone when you didn't know them, you would use one word. You talk to someone when you know them a little bit, another way, you'd use another word. You talk to someone when you really, really know them, and you would use this word. It was a word of affection and a word of endearment. It meant I have honor for you. I have respect for you. A word of endearment. He says, "Dear woman," Jesus said to her, "Your faith is great," he says. "Your request is granted," and her daughter was instantly healed. Do you see? Her faith was great. It wasn't that she was great. Her faith was great. She got into the position to where she could receive what God wanted for her. My sermon title is easy for this weekend. I hope that it's one that you'll remember and that you'll say it to yourself often in weeks to come. I hope it's one that you'll be able to sort of bring upon yourself when you need it, but I want you to practice. So I want you to say it to both of your neighbors on either side. So just turn to one of them, whichever one you like best. Turn to them and say, my sermon title, y'all ready for it? Here it is. Sit down, be humble. Now turn to the other neighbor after you practice it once and tell them, sit down, be humble. Humility is the gateway to honor. You want honor in your life? Honor is to have people believe what is the true opinion of who you are, the true value and the true worth of who you are. You want honor in your life? Be humble. Humility is the gateway to honor. Humility is the conduit to hope. If you need some hope in your life and you want someone to encourage you, you want someone to give you some hope, you want the hope of a friend, you want the hope of people around you, you be humble. Because humility will bring hope to you. When you put yourself into a position where you can receive hope, it will be in a humble position that you do it. Humility is also the fertilizer before there's ever a harvest. If you're praying that something would grow inside of you, that you would be more like Jesus, if you're praying that something would grow inside of you, whether it's a dream or whether it's the hope that someone else planted the seed of inside of you, if you want growth inside of your life, humility is the fertilizer that produces the harvest. If you want fruit to be able to pick off of the tree of your life, you've got to have humility. And we see in this woman something that I think is something we need to have in our own life. There's a lesson that we need to learn from her. I believe that the gospel writer included this story where Jesus had run into this woman because it was something that they could learn from and that we could learn from. And I believe that Jesus actually engaged with this woman because he knew that this woman had something to teach us, and it was in her humility. And what we see in this woman is that she was okay with not being okay. That is so hard for us in our religious culture. Most of us have grown up probably in or around at least a religious culture of some kind. It may have been that very religious culture that pushed you away from the church at times. Maybe you got right into the religious culture and you live right in the midst of it. But we know that there is a religious culture that makes it not easy to be okay with not being okay. In fact, there is a tide that pushes against being okay with not being okay. It's a tide that we have to push against here at Freedom Church, because so quickly the religious culture will take over and will convince us to go back to the position where we say we have to be okay. We must be okay. See, I grew up in a religious culture that taught that. It taught that strong leaders were always okay. And so it was never okay for a pastor, for example, to show that they were weak in any way. It was never okay for a pastor to get up and say, yeah, I've struggled with that in my marriage. It was never okay for a pastor not to be okay, because strong leaders always had the answers. I'm okay. We're okay. You're okay. And so we would go to church, and maybe you were like this, and what you learned about church is you didn't learn a whole lot about it except this: when I go there, no matter what has happened at home, I must be okay. And so fights could go down at home. Things could be said, and pieces of furniture could be thrown, and people could be angry, and you could see your mom and dad get in a fight or whatever, but then as you would go to walk out of the door in clothes that you never wore any other time, you would also paste a smile onto your face that you never had any other time, because somebody would lean down to you and say, we're going to church. It's okay. It's okay. We're going to be okay. We're okay. In fact, I'm from the South, so whenever I kind of picture that, here's what I think. We're okay. Okay? You're going to be okay. I'm okay. And sweetheart, we're okay. And so you may remember that as a little girl, maybe welling up with tears because something wasn't going on good in your life, but you were getting ready to be in front of people. And so this is what you were told. You're okay. I'm okay, you're okay, your daddy's okay. I know that he's drinking a lot, but he's okay. All right, and when we go to church, nothing said about that drinking a lot stuff, because we're okay. We're okay. And so everybody was just okay. And so we were taught to plaster on these fake smiles. We were taught to push everything down. We were taught that we're all okay. Everybody is okay. Because whether they said it or not, everybody around you in the religious culture was looking at you and going, hey, here's what you need to do. You need to get your stuff together, all right? Because you're okay. You are okay. And so you walk around going, all right, well, if I'm going to be involved in this, I got to be okay. So you'd have a struggle. You go, no, I'm okay. I'm okay. And so this is why when you'd walk into church, people would say, how are you? Would you say, I'm okay. I'm great. And then when you say this, I'm fine. I'm fine. Now, the IRS is actually investigating them for tax evasion, but they're fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. Their marriage is falling apart, but I'm okay. I'm all right. Everything is good. This will be evidenced by people who say things like this. You say to them, hey, man, how are you doing? How are you doing? Oh, man, I'm better than I deserve. I'm better than I deserve. I'm great. Everything's wonderful. And you see it in their eyes. If you could just cover up their smile, you see that their eyes are afraid. It's this one. How are you doing? Man, if I was any better, there'd be two of me. I don't even know what that means. Like, I have no idea what that means. Why would that be that way? I don't know. You're just so good, there'd be two of you. I don't get it. Like, I have no idea. And if I was any better, it'd be two of me. And so we have these pat answers that we've come up with church people that mean fine or okay, and we never are able to look at. So things come up in conversation. It's like, man, is anybody, you're struggling with lust in your life? No, of course not. I'm okay. I'm okay. By the way, if you're ever in a group of men who are being authentic and real with one another, and the question is, do you ever struggle with lust, comes up, and one of them says no, they're lying. And so you need to go to them and say, you're not okay because you're lying. Like, you're lying. Like, you're not okay. And so somebody says, hey, how's your marriage going? It's okay. It's falling apart all around you. And so we shove it down and we press it down and we say, I can't be humble. I can't admit that I'm not okay. I can't be okay with being okay. And what happens is, this is my theory. I believe that every single one of us has a reservoir of F-bombs inside of us that just are dying to come out. They're bubbling at the surface. And so what happens is some, like just clerk at Walmart, or somebody who's in the parking lot in front of you and they get into space before you. Something happens and all of a sudden explosions start to go on and you just go off on somebody and you tell some poor girl that you don't even know things that you really want to tell your husband, but you don't have the courage to, and you just go off on them, and then all of a sudden, after it's all done and your toddler is looking up like you like, Mommy, are you okay? You're like, I'm not okay. Like, I just did that. Like, that was me that just came out of me. And like, you're not okay. And so we struggle with it. We try to put it all together. And this woman didn't do that. And here's what happens. We begin to believe our own lies. Like, we tell everybody else that we're okay so often. And we say, and this is powerful. This is something to remember. This is about all words. The Bible teaches us that words are so powerful. If you say something enough over and over again, you will begin to believe it. Like if you say it over and over again, you can change the trajectory of your life by speaking life over your life, or you can speak death over your life. But if you say it, that's right. If you say it often enough, you will begin to believe it. And so if you say, I'm okay, I'm fine, eventually you begin to believe your own lies. And you believe your own lies, and what that's called is pride, because then all of a sudden you do believe you're okay. And so if anybody comes to you with anything and says, hey, this isn't something in your life that I see so good, you lose your mind when you're called out on stuff because you're okay. And you're like, don't you know I'm okay? I've been telling the world and myself I'm okay for years. I'm awesome. I'm great. Who are you to call me out? Who are you to come and tell me something in my life is not going? Who are you to do that? And so we convince ourselves that we're okay, and we lie to ourselves, and we have this pride. It's like the older brother in the prodigal son story in Luke chapter 15. When his younger brother returns from a life of sin, you may remember this story. The younger brother asks for his inheritance. He goes out, he blows all of his inheritance. He lives a sinful life. He gets in so much trouble that he finds himself eating with the pigs out of the pig trough, and he's just eating with the pigs, and he thinks, hey, I'll go home and be a slave in my own father's home, and that will be better. So he comes back. The older brother is still there. And this is what the older brother says. He's mad because his father is throwing a party for the younger brother. He's mad about it. He says this, all these years I've slaved for you and never once refused to do a single thing you told me to do. How many of you have raised kids? If you've raised kids, just raise your hand in the air if you've raised some kids. When you read that statement coming from this young man, you know he's begun to believe his own lies because you've raised kids before. And you know that at some point when he was 2 years old, because he says, I never once refused to do a single thing you told me to do. You know when he was 2 years old, he looked at his dad and said, no. It was in Hebrew, so he said like, no. You know that at some point he was like a 9 or 10-year-old who didn't clean the stable like he said he was going to. He was just hiding poop under the straw. And like, I got it all up, Dad. I cleaned it up. Don't worry about it. It's all good. You know that he was 14 at some point and had a pubescent meltdown at some point where you're just like, I mean, this lady's daughter's possessed. Maybe this kid's possessed. Maybe that's what's going on. And you know that happened. And yet he's so religious that he has begun to believe his own lies. I slaved for you. Never refused to do a single thing you told me to do. But we do it too, don't we? We judge other people's pain. We secretly judge them when we're going through the same pain. We publicly judge them even when we're going through the same pain as they are. And we act like we're not because we're okay. We're okay. How about, or even worse, we judge people's pain because we don't have that struggle. We judge their struggle because we don't go through it. And so we judge theirs, but we somehow pretend that ours is okay. See, I mean, if my struggle is okay, it's their struggle that's bad. I mean, I don't struggle with what they struggle with, so we'll make that sin. Mine is just a shortcoming. Like, mine's just a personality issue. They have sin. I have a personality defect. And we do that. And we convince ourselves that we're so okay. We're so okay that we can deal with anything. And this causes us to be hypersensitive to any critique that comes our way. So we're super, and we boil all this down and we call it pride. It's pride. That's what it is. We're battling against pride. And what I love about this woman is this woman had no pride. She just needed peace. Like she didn't have time for pride. She didn't have time to make a case about how she wasn't, lowly. She didn't have a time to make a case about calling her a dog. She didn't have time to make the case because she needed peace in her life. She so needed the blessing that Jesus had for her that she had no time to add any burdens to her life of pride. She didn't let pride block her from the potential blessing in her life. And I love it because it tells us in 1 Peter 5 and 6 how she did this. Look, it says, so humble yourself. Everybody say humble. Humble yourself under the mighty power of God. Remember, she called him Lord. She said, you're the Lord. She said, this is true, Lord. She worshiped him. She knew who he was. She humbled herself under the mighty power of God. And at the right time, he will lift you up in honor. What we're looking for, right? We want to be honored. Jesus turns and he sees the value that she has. He turns and he sees the value that she brings to this equation. He honors her. Give all your worries and cares to God, for he cares about you. There's a command in here to humble yourself. That's the command in the scripture. Humble yourself. Sit down and be humble. But there's also a result. And the result is that there's freedom. She doesn't have to carry her cares anymore. She can cast her cares on him. That's the result. There's a command and there's a result. But in the middle, there's a promise. And the promise is, if you will humble yourself, you will be lifted up and honored. So there's a result, there's a promise, but there is a command. We need to sit down and be humble. See, she didn't have time to debate about whether she was okay or not. She knew she wasn't okay. The whole reason she was there is she wasn't okay. Every day she had been waking up with a daughter who was, it said, tormented, was going through so much pain. So every day you're waking up with stuff that reminds you immediately upon your feet hitting the floor, you're not okay. You get a good night's rest and you think you've cleared your mind and that it's all gone. And then as soon as you engage your mind, it comes back. You're not okay. And you know, I'm not okay. And she knew, I'm not okay. And humility is really the ability to receive truth with no filter. And see, I'm convinced that what most people call confrontation. So in other words, I can't believe that I had that confrontation. I can't believe they confronted me with that. What most people call accusation. Can you believe they would accuse me of that? And that they made that accusation about me? What most people call confrontation and accusation is actually revelation. It is the truth coming upon you. And so there's truth being spoken, but we take offense to it. And do you see that? She could have so easily taken offense. When the disciples said, tell her to go away, she's bothering us with her begging, she should have gone, hey, bump this. I'm not dealing with this. No, I'm not even going to deal with that. I'm not even going to talk to these guys. These guys are going to treat me like this. I'm not going to treat them. When Jesus first threw out to her, I'm not here for you. I didn't come here for you. I'm not about you. She said, look, this guy they talk about Jesus, he says he's not even here for me. Why would I listen to him? And then when she pushes in a little bit more and he says, look, why would I take from the children and give to the dogs? She could have taken on offense and said, I can't believe he just called me a dog. Like, I can't believe he would say that about me, that he would lower me down that way, tell me that I'm unworthy, tell me that I don't have any worth or value in that way. I can't believe he'd say that. But instead of taking offense, she decided she could either take offense or she could be in his presence. And she needed to decide which one it was going to be. And in his presence was where would come the blessing. And so she didn't take any offense. She received the truth that Jesus had for her. And she didn't take the offense, but she was able to get in his presence. And it was in his presence that Jesus was able to do his work. She could have been bitter. I think for a lot of us, we walk around with so much bitterness inside of us. If you're full of bitterness, there's no room for thankfulness. If you're full of bitterness, there's no room for gratitude. If you're full of bitterness, there's no room for God to move. And we walk around so bitter about the fact that people have called out truth in our lives. Maybe they didn't do it so well. How many of you experienced that? That people aren't that good at calling out truth? They're not that good at confronting. They're not that good at bringing this revelation to you. We've all seen that. You know why they're not that good at it? Because they're not okay. They're not okay. You know why you're not that good at it either? Because you're not okay either. And so oftentimes there is truth brought to us, but because it's surrounded by some stuff that we don't know how to deal with, we dismiss the whole blessing. We don't get ourselves into a position to take the blessing. We create a blockage to the blessing that God wants for us. She so easily could have blocked out what Jesus wanted to give to her, which was exactly what she came for, her daughter to be healed. But when we're humble, we realize something about people, and that is sometimes surgery must be done. And you know this, if you've ever had surgery of any kind, you know that there's no way they can cut into your skin, perform surgery. It's always painful. Surgery's always painful. But surgery, when done strategically by someone who wants to help you, though painful, it can remove the cancer. It can remove the thing that's about to kill you. And the scripture talks to us about this. It says in Proverbs 27, 5-6, it says, an open rebuke is better than a hidden love. Wounds from a sincere friend are better than many kisses from an enemy. And there is a surgical way that people can help remove things from our lives if we will just do what? Sit down and be humble. In fact, say my sermon title for me. Just say it out loud. Say, sit down, be humble. But they said I was rude. You say. I mean, can you believe they said I was rude? You were rude. Like, if you really think about it, you were. Like they said you were rude and you were rude. Sit down and be humble. Say it again. Sit down, be humble. But she said that I made a bad choice. You did make a bad choice. She was just friend enough to say it to your face instead of behind your back like everybody else is. See, kisses from an enemy, they look like, oh, we're great, we're okay. We're good. Can you believe what she's wearing? I mean, can you believe it? She does not look good in biker shorts. She does not. She does not. Which one's a friend? The one who does that or the one who goes, hey, come here, babe. Come here. You don't look good in biker shorts. I don't either, so we're in this together, all right? Because nobody should wear biker shorts, really. I saw a dude on Instagram the other day, did some kind of video sitting down with biker shorts on. Ain't nobody needs to see that. You can't unsee some things. Like, that can't happen. So nobody, and you say, hey, but we don't need to blast you, but you just don't wear biker shorts anymore, right? And you can go, I'm offended. And I can't believe they told me. I can't believe they told me I don't look good in biker shorts. I can't believe they told me that I was too angry. I can't believe they told me that I could have parented better. I can't believe they told me that I could be a better spouse. I can't believe they told me that I should serve more. I can't believe they told me I made a bad choice. Sit down and be humble. Say it again. Sit down and be humble. I can't believe the pastor said that was sin. I can't believe he called that out. And I mean, come on, pastor. You know, we just live together because it's economically the best thing to do. I mean, just realize we're in 2018, pastor. You know, everybody's sleeping together before they get married. You know, you called that out as sin. Come on, man. You say, I can't believe he called it sin. It is sin. It is sin. And here's the deal. See, I'm with you. Because I got sin that I got to go to the cross for. And I got things that I'm dealing with. And see, what's so funny is oftentimes when I will talk about things like struggles in my life, and people will come up to me and they'll go, I can't believe how transparent you are. Like, you're so transparent. And what I want to tell you something, I'm not that transparent. You're just so used to pastors not being willing to get up and tell you something about their lives that you think I'm an anomaly. When the truth is we are all so messed up. And there's some people who really know me that really get transparent with me. Like, they really know what's going on with me. I'm just sort of authentic with you guys. But we're just so not used to it. We can't believe that anyone would be real. And this woman, she just lays the everlasting gobstopper on the table and goes, hey, let me get in the right position to receive what you have for me, because I'll eat the scraps of grace off of the floor if that's what I need to do, because grace is what I need. I'm not worried about you telling me I'm something I'm not. I know who I am. I know that my whole people have rejected you, and I know that you're the Lord, and all I want to do is worship you. And if you'll just let me eat off of the floor of what falls down here, I'll take that. Because what she realized is nothing can grow in religion. Nothing can grow in religion. It doesn't matter how hard you're trying. It doesn't matter how much of your stuff you think you've got together. It doesn't matter. Nothing can grow in religion. But here's the beautiful part. Anything can grow in grace. Anything. And so you may be a scoundrel, but you can grow in grace. You may have messed up 3 or 4 marriages, but you can grow in grace. You may have so much sin in your life right now that you need to go to the crosses to confess, and you can't believe there's a God who would love you in a way that he can love you, but it can grow in grace. And the beauty of this woman's story is it shows us if we're willing to put it all on the table and go, I understand who I am, and I understand who you are, then we can grow. And I was thinking, there's just something to this that just points out to me Jesus' love for us. Because in the end, there's this point where she's just got the filter of okay is off of her. Like she's willing to get rid of the filter of okay. She receives with grace, she gives with grace, and she says that statement, but even the dogs are allowed to eat the scraps. She says all that, and I realized that Jesus has this love for us called grace, that she recognized it. Like she was swimming in the sea of grace. She understood exactly what she needed, and it's a reckless love. In fact, it's the song we referenced earlier. We've been singing that a little bit at our church, and this song is actually taking some heat in the religious community because the religious people are found a problem with it, as they say that God doesn't have a reckless love. He's not reckless. But see, I'm reminded of a story where God let it says, I'm like this father who let his kid go out and spend all of his money in wild living because he wanted to show him how much he loved him, and to keep him back and to be not reckless would have meant that to let him go live a reckless life and to not know if he was going to come back, to not know if he'd ever return. And he stood on the porch every single day. It seems like it would be a waste of time, a reckless waste of time to stand on the porch and just look for him, waiting for him to come, just waiting to see if he would come. And it was that reckless love that drew him back to him. I see a reckless love in a God that said, I'm going to go down a cross for people that I don't know what they will do with it. I don't know whether they will accept my love or not, but I'm going to pay a price for each and every one of them. And it's in our humility, that we're actually confronted with the hand of God. And in religion, that religion tells us that the hand of God will hold us down. Religion tells us that the hand of God will come on us to punish us. Religion tells us that the hand of God only wants to see us lower. But the scripture told us that if we will submit ourselves humbly under the hand of God, that he will lift us up and give us honor because of the reckless love. I wonder how many of you just need to be humble. Go to the crosses and say, I've got sin in my life. Take communion, remembering it was the body and the blood of Jesus when he died on a cross for us. And so we humbly, not just out of rote, but we humbly go to the communion table and we receive his love. I wonder how many of us could just sing this song knowing that the reckless love of God is available to us through what we call grace. Let's sing it, let's worship.